to grab a couple of blocks for class, or things that you can use as blocks. And then at least a pillow and a blanket as well. And let me know if you've got any questions before we get started here in just a couple of minutes. Feel free to set up your space in a nice way as always. I've got like a candle lit this morning. You can do that. You can grab some essential oils if you like those. And we'll just go ahead and get started here as everyone's coming in to class. So when you're ready, go ahead. And hey, Lisa and Angela, good morning. Welcome to class, everyone. So today, for practice, I want you to make sure that you've got a couple of cushions, whether pillows or blankets, a couple of blocks, and then anything else that you like for class. And make sure that you're sitting on something, so whether it's a bolster or a blanket. And good morning, Christine, good to have you. So when you're ready, just go ahead and let your arms relax. Hey, welcome. And we'll get grounded and get settled. So the shoulders, as always, just gently relax down away from the ears. Begin to just find that gentle uplift of the chest and that stabilization of your low belly and your low back. And let your hip flexors relax. So we always start by bringing our awareness inward towards the body and begin to just feel the connection down to the earth below. And just note how the past couple of days have been for you. It's been a big week, right? So much has happened. It's almost like the things that would normally happen in the course of like a month, several months, or even a year happen in like 1 week, right? We've had so much with the Supreme Court rulings for LGBTQ individuals to have more those freedoms and non-discrimination in the workplace, right? And then the DACA, the individuals, the young people of this country who are now a bit more protected for the time being and able to stay. On top of all of this, right, on Friday was Juneteenth. That remembrance, whether it's a holiday that you were aware of or maybe not so much, of that sort of last call for the 13th Amendment, the end of slavery in that form. On top of all of these things, right, we yesterday had a new moon, yesterday night, in the sign of Cancer. So Cancer it's like the great mother, the nourisher, that remembrance of home and safety. On top of that, we had an eclipse, a solar eclipse last night, also in that sort of 0 degree point of Cancer. So this is a lot of information to take in, right? The solar eclipse is kind of reflective of how we show ourselves externally to the world, and how we're showing up to each other can be one interpretation of that. And when we find an eclipse with that, it's almost like, in what ways do I want to restart how I'm showing up? In what ways do I feel a shift or a change? And then yesterday was the longest, really Friday, yesterday, and today, the longest days of the year. And that connection in with the solar, the sun, and the sort of growth that happens through that. And today's Father's Day. So just a little bit, right? And we feel into all of this. And we just let it begin to soften. So it's a lot for our systems to take in just a few of those things, let alone all of them in 1 week, on top of the global pandemic and everything else that may be happening in your own worlds, in your own life. So I want us to just take a couple of minutes to actually let all of this settle. calling in whatever of all of these kind of experiences and awarenesses are sticking in the body and what feels like it's moving through easily. On the yoga practice, I like to think of it like a big pot, right? That we begin to just bring everything in and we start to stir it around. And we turn in that pot. So we don't push away all that is here. And on top of this, right, gosh, I forgot to say it's Pride Week, okay? So starting this week for the next week and month, right? It's Pride. So that awareness and connection, whether you identify in that way or not, is that everyone can love and be seen for who they are. And that that is okay and something to be celebrated. So just as we ground and settle, we remember that connection to the earth below, the sky above, all the different layers of ourselves, these earth bodies, the physical form, the mind, the air body, thought, ideas, and learning. That connection into our fire bodies, our soul essence, who we are, why we're here. And that water body, that sort of emotional awareness and resonance and what we create in this world. I'm just calling in what you need from this morning's practice, what brought you here to your mat. Another minute just to let it all begin to stir into that big pot. Begin to just deepen your breath. So on your inhale, just feel the belly and chest gently inflate. And on your exhale, feel the chest and belly deflate as the breath goes out through the nose or mouth. Bring yourself into present time awareness. On this Sunday morning, June 21st, just a hair after 11. And on your next inhale, let's slowly circle our arms all the way around, tracing a big circle. Palms of the hands come to touch. Then exhale, bring your hands into the chest and into the heart. Do a couple more. So inhale, circling your arms all the way around. So as we do this, right, we actually begin to create the container for our practice even more. At that third time with the hands drawn into the chest, let the hands just softly rest back down on the legs and begin to open your eyes. And let's start on all fours. So if you missed me on the prop low down today, we just want a couple of cushions, whether a bolster, blankets, pillows, at least 2, maybe 3 if you like. And then if you've got a couple of blocks or things that you can use as blocks, go ahead and grab those too. So we'll let our bellies drop, the chest and heart lifts, the gaze lifts. And then exhale, draw the belly in and let the head drop. And just move back and forth. Let us know via chat, or you can always unmute yourself too if for whatever reason, like my voice drops out at any point during practice, or if you can't hear Daniel's guitar playing. And just a few more. And as a reminder, right, we're always invited to make our own choices in the practice. So you all know that you've been flowing and breathing with me, but really listen to your bodies this morning. Whether that means you want to be a little bit more active or a little bit more gentle, And also, if you feel called to and comfortable, feel free to turn your video on, and I can give you some little kind of adjustments like I would do in the classroom if we were there together in person. So just move back and forth, or even just to, put yourself on that visual connection. It's always nice to see your faces. No judgments though if you don't feel comfortable. So go ahead and do 3 more cow and cat. Let it feel good. Press down through the outer edges of your hands just as much as you are pressing down through the thumb and forefinger edge of your hand. And let's go ahead and find a nice neutral tabletop when you're ready. Now we're going to bring our right leg out to the side, like a dog kind of lifts its leg to go to the bathroom, right? And then you're going to lower it. So we're going to do that just a few times. And note, you can always come up onto your fist if this bothers your wrists, or if you feel like you don't have enough space to do this with ease. So just a few more. Super important to strengthen our hips here, especially because we do so much of the stretching in yoga, which is good, but we also need to build that kind of tone. And then lower that leg down. We'll switch sides. So lift your left leg up, just out to the side and down. So it's inhale, lift, exhale, lower. If you can, try to bring your thigh, the outer edge of your leg, parallel to the ceiling or the earth. So just do a couple more. And then lower. Now we're going to extend. Bring your hands down if you're on your fists. Extend your right leg back. And just reach through that leg. Keep your right hip and left hip level. And then extend through your left arm. Bring your gaze slightly forward of your front hand. And then bring your hand down and knee down. We'll switch. Left leg extends. Core engages. Then right arm reaches. Gaze is nice and long. And then lower. Now keep your knees exactly where they are, kind of level right under your hips, and draw your hands forward past where you do down dog, and let's bring our forehead to the earth. So I want you to soften between your shoulders and your mid-upper back. Relax your jaw and take 5 more breaths. You're pressing down through all 10 fingers, the finger pads right where your fingerprints are, and draw your shoulders down away from your ears a little bit. So it's almost like you're clawing a little bit to the earth. And slowly lift up. Hello, little Rita. And we're going to come all the way onto our belly. So extend your legs back, untuck your toes, rise up into a low cobra. Shoulders down, away from the earth. Then exhale, lower down. 2 more times. So inhale, lift, low cobra. Press up through the crown of your head. Exhale, lower. Last time, lift into low cobra and hold for 2 more breaths. Press down through your legs. The knees might lift a little bit off of the ground here. And exhale, lower. We're going to find our way up to all fours, tabletop, and make your way back into downward facing dog. Hips lift all the way up and back. Let's go ahead and take 5 breaths here. Feel free to move around a little bit. Head and neck is relaxed. And the arms kind of actively, even though your hands are shoulder distance apart, your biceps, your arms kind of hug in a little bit to get that strength in that form. And then after you do that, it's really important to soften just a little bit between your shoulders. So we get that active strength, and then we relax. Go ahead if you haven't already and pedal the feet back and forth. So bend one knee, straighten the opposite leg. And just begin to open up the backs of your legs and stay rooted down through your hands. And then come back to center. On the in-breath, you're going to rise up to your tippy toes, gaze forward, bend your knees. And as you exhale, walk to the top of your mat. Forward folds. Take 5 breaths. Head and neck is relaxed. Hands can be on the ground, or you can get blocks under your hands And give your head just a little shake from side to side. And then a little bit up and down. Just adding a little bit more freedom here in the neck. And come back to center with the head. Take just 2 more breaths. Knees are a little bit bent, maybe a lot bent this morning. And inhale, lift halfway, long spine. Good, exhale, lower. Bend your knees. Inhale, circle all the way up to the sky, reach up tall. Exhale, hands to the heart. So I'm gonna just adjust my camera up a little bit so you can see. You're gonna bring your feet hip distance apart, reach the arms up to the sky, then take your right fingertips to your left wrist, lift up tall and come to a little side bend to the right. Now draw your hips back and rib cage back a little bit and just feel into the body. Do you want to keep your feet where they are, or do you want to bring the feet a little closer? And kind of play with your alignment until it feels right. And then lift your gaze up to the ceiling. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, switch. So left hand, right wrist. Slowly side bend to the left. Press down through the feet, draw the ribs back. And then lift that gaze, root down to reach out. And come back to center. Separate your feet a little bit wider. And let's swan dive all the way to the earth. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bring your hands down and step back, downward facing dog, everyone. All the way back. On the in-breath, lift your right leg off of the ground. Bend the knee, open the hip. Exhale, draw that knee to your chest. Step the foot forward. Bring your left knee down. Untuck your left toes and bring your hands up onto your hips. So I want you to walk your right foot just about an inch to the right and just a smidge forward. Here, keep your rib cage drawn in so you're not puffing out. You're kind of knitting in a little bit, and draw your left arm up to the sky. So this week in classes, if you've been in my other classes, we've been working on side bending. We're going to continue that and add to it this morning. So you're going to come into a gentle side bend to the right. Draw the gaze either straight ahead or a little bit up to the ceiling. Now let your right hand just relax, not touching the ground unless you have extraordinarily long arms. But you want to just reach the fingers a little bit away from each other. And then exhale, bring your hands down, frame your front foot. We're going to take our right toes and pivot them at like 1 o'clock. Bring your left hand wider, so a few inches wider than your left shoulder, and draw your right arm up to the sky, then extend the hand back. Reach through your fingers, your right fingers press down through your left hand, and you can bring your gaze back or just gaze to the right. Then lower the hand down, and let's come back into tabletop. Give the hips a little sway, and find your way back, downward facing dog. Now on the in-breath, let's lift the left leg off of the ground. Bend the knee and open the hip. Then exhale, draw that knee forward to the chest and step the foot forward. Bring your back knee down, untuck the toes, and hands come up onto the hips. Low lunge on the left. So remember to bring your left foot forward about an inch and to the left about an inch, just a smidge. Keep that knee bent over kind of or toward on top of your ankle and draw your ribs in. Now we'll reach the right arm up to the sky. When we lift up tall, you reach up, and then on your exhale, you side bend to the left. Palm is facing to the left. Once you feel really stable, you let the left hand relax, and then we just gently reach in both directions. You feel a nice stretch across the top of your right hip flexor, and then lower your hands down. Now we'll take our left toes and pivot them to the side toward about 11 o'clock. Bring your right hand a little bit wider and draw your left arm up to the sky, and then extend that hand back. So here it's important not to completely kind of dump into it, right? You want to press down through your front foot, engage the core, active and strong. Press down through your right hand, maybe gaze back, and lower the hand down. Come back to tabletop. Just give those hips a little sway, and let's find downward facing dog. Take a few breaths just to ground and settle into downward facing dog. Then inhale, come forward to plank pose, top of a push-up. Puff up a little bit between your shoulders. Make sure your butt is about level with your shoulders. Then exhale back to downward facing dog. Let's do 2 more. So inhale, come forward to plank. Just gaze slightly forward of your hands. Exhale back, downward facing dog. One more time. Inhale, forward to plank. Nice and long. Make sure that, again, you're not kind of tenting the butt up or dropping it down too low. Now you're at choice. You can either bring your knees down or keep your knees lifted. Draw your shoulders past your wrists and lower to the earth. Untuck the toes. Rise up, cobra, high or low. Then exhale. Let's find downward facing dog, all the way up and back. No rush. Take 3 breaths to settle on in. Jaw is relaxed. On the inhale, lift your right leg off of the ground. Bend the knee, open the hip. Exhale, take that knee to your chest and step that foot forward. Pivot the outer edge of your back foot down and come into warrior 2 pose. So a nice long reach through your arms. Keep the crown of the head extending straight up to the sky. Make sure you're taking up enough space. So long stance. Draw your left thigh, your back thigh a little bit back, but then keep your right knee bent. Take your right forearm on the right thigh. Left arm goes across the ear. Extended side angle. So you've got to press down, but then create almost like a draw in and up of the low belly and core. Now you can slowly play with lifting your right arm up so your arms are kind of parallel to each other. Not an easy thing to do, about shoulder distance apart. Hollow hips, right? Strong legs. Let's come back, warrior 2. Left hand down the back thigh, flip your right palm up and come into a little reverse warrior. Keep that right knee bent. And then slowly, let's cartwheel the hands down, lift the back heel, and find downward facing dog. Just take a couple of breaths. To pause and feel here. And inhale, lift your left leg off the ground. Bend the knee, open the hip. Exhale, knee to the chest, step the foot forward. Pivot the outer edge of the back foot down and rise up on the inhale, warrior 2 pose. So really move as much as you can in sync with your breath, right? So you find that kind of when we take an inhale, it's like we're reaching into the pose a little bit more, right? We're bringing in more awareness, more of that kind of active engagement. And then on the exhale, we soften into the shape. Now take your left forearm on the left thigh. Right hand goes across the ear or hand at your hip. Same in every pose, right? So we engage, we grow active, and then we soften and settle. That's how we bring that yin and yang energy into the practice, that sun and moon balance. Now, maybe, right, play with lifting the left arm up. So finding that strength, staying in the side bend, one more inhale, and then come back into warrior 2. Back hand down the back thigh, flip the left palm up, side, sort of bend here, a little reverse warrior. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down, lift the back heel, find downward facing dog. Pause and feel, couple of breaths. Jaw is relaxed. Now inhale, we're gonna come forward to plank. Walk your feet to touch. Roll to the outer edge of your left foot. Remember, you can always bring your left knee down with your toes tucked under if you need to modify. So either modified side plank with the right leg lifted or side plank on the left with the right hand at your hip or right arm up to the sky. Then bring the hand down, everyone. Find downward facing dog. Take an exhale. Second side, inhale, come forward to plank. Walk the feet to touch, roll to the outer edge of the right foot, or bring the right knee down. Remember, left hand at the left hip or left arm up. If your right knee is down, I want you to lift the left leg, okay? Press down, reach up. Exhale, downward facing dog. Walk your hands back to your feet. Come to a forward fold at the back of your mat. This time, grab opposite forearms or opposite elbows and just sway from side to side. 5 breaths. Jaw is relaxed. Doing a few side planks warms you up, that's for sure. So from here, you can let the breath release and relax through the mouth. And let's come back to center. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, walk your hands forward and come back, downward facing dog. Rise up to the tippy toes, bend the knees. Gaze forward, exhale, step or hop to the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, lower. Bend the knees, inhale, circle all the way up to the sky, reach up tall. Exhale, hands in, one at the heart, one at the belly, and just let your eyes close. We'll take a few breaths, relax in the body, so from the head down to the feet. I like to pause where I find tension at times, shoulders, hips for me, low back at times. So you start to feel like your body is strong but soft. And slowly bring your hands to your hips and open your eyes. Make sure you've got enough room behind you to step back. We're actually going to step back into some lunges. So the hands at the hips, the knees are bent. Step your left leg back a couple of steps until you find high lunge. Remember, back knee can always be bent or even on the ground if needed. But keep the right knee right on top of that ankle and never past it. That's really, really important with high lunge. So the right hand stays where it is. The left arm reaches up to the sky. Now we're going to come to that little arc and side bend to the right. As you do that, you might want to power up your back leg if that feels good to do so, right? Lift the inner back thigh up and let your right hand relax. So reach through both hands. You find that you're a little bit too wobbly here. Hug in first with the inner thighs. If that doesn't help, bring the back knee down. Now just bring your gaze straight ahead and take just a few more breaths. So remember that back leg maybe lifts a little bit up to engage and deepen the stretch. Then everyone, lower your hands down. Now we're going to wiggle our back foot back really long. Keep the back knee lifted. Bring your left hand a little bit wider to the left and draw the right arm up to the sky. So we're going to do a little transition here. Do your best. You don't have to be perfect. Make sure your left hand is a little bit wider than your shoulder. Now you're going to pivot to the outer edge of your back foot and bring your right toes to point towards the right. Reach the top arm up. And then pivot all 10 toes straight ahead and find downward facing dog. If you didn't quite get it, no worries. We'll do it side 2. So take a few breaths. If you want to do a flow, go ahead. Otherwise, stay put. If you need to get off of the hands and find a break in child's pose, please feel free to do that. Jaw is relaxed. So from downward facing dog, let's all rise to the tippy toes, bend the knees. Gaze forward and step or hop to the top of your mat. Bend the knees, inhale, circle all the way up to the sky, reach up tall, put hands in at the heart. Hands go to the hips. From the top of the mat, the top of the space you're working with, bend the knees. Now we're gonna step the right leg back, so side 2. The left leg will now be your forward leg. Find that kind of little bit of a buoyancy in high lunge. So you wanna feel strong Engage the inner thighs a little bit in. Back knee can always be a little bit bent. And draw that right arm up to the sky. Make sure you've got a focal point somewhere in front of you, either in your space or on my, sort of view where you can rest your gaze. Press down through your left big toe and side bend just a little bit to the left. You can let the left hand relax. Remember, we engage that inner back thigh up. Deepen the sort of stretch here across the hip, the opening of the psoas muscle and the low back. Reach through both hands. And then on your next exhale, lower your hands down. Bring your right hand, remember, a little bit wider to the right. Wiggle your back foot back so the back leg is as straight as it can get. And then we'll reach here, the left arm up. So if the first time confused you, right, go slow, do your best. And we're going to pivot the outer edge of the back foot down and pivot the left toes to the left. Oh, breathing here, reaching up tall. Feels a little weird, right? And then exhale, pivot all 10 toes straight ahead. Find downward facing dog. And let's get off of our hands. So come down to your knees. You're gonna bring your knees wide, big toes touch, heels apart, and find child's pose. Flip your palms up and let your head relax. So jaw is soft, take 5 breaths. And we'll inhale slowly, no rush, come back to all fours. So we're going to be on our hands for a little bit here. I want you to, be careful with paying attention to your wrists. Make sure that they're okay. You can always come to your fists as needed. So just like we did kind of at the start of class, we're going to pivot one leg up. But before you do that, I want you to, and it's sort of an interesting angle, so I'll turn to the side so you can all for sure see what I'm about to do. We've done this recently, but it can get a little confusing. So I'm going to demonstrate by starting with my right leg. So I'm going to take my right foot out at like a 30-degree angle. So if I'm extending straight back, it just goes out to a 30-degree angle. I'm going to keep my right hand down. Then I'm going to lift my left leg off the ground. And my left hand goes to my hip. So let's go ahead and all do that together if you didn't already. Take your toes tucked under and draw your right foot out at like a 30-degree angle. Then lift your left leg up parallel to the ceiling. Left hand at the left hip. Now you're gonna reach the left arm up to the sky. Remember, everything is an optional progression. You can stay here or draw your left arm across the ear. Reach through your left foot. Everyone bring your left hand to your left hip. Stay in the pose, bend your back knee. Bend the left knee. Now you can either stay here or draw your left arm up and then maybe hand to the foot. So yoga is not a contest, right? Maybe hand to the foot with the knee bent. Yeah. Good. If you've got your hand to your foot, just gently reach your foot a little bit away from you. One more breath. Really good, everyone. And let's slowly extend the leg, release the hand down, knee down, hand down, and come to tabletop. And just give the hips a little bit of a sway. So side 2, just like side 1. Toes tuck under. Now the left foot pivots about 30 degrees to the left. The right leg lifts up to the sky. Parallel with the ceiling, right hand to the right hip. This is working our outer thigh, right? We reach the right arm up and then maybe right arm across the ear like extended side angle. There's a lot of core activation required in this, right? So we don't have to do crunches to work our core. Now you're gonna bend your back knee. Maybe hand goes back to the hip, maybe you stay there. Or you reach that right arm up and back and maybe hand to foot. If you get a cramp, release the foot. Yeah, sometimes it feels a little bit sort of strange. Our muscles kind of tense up, right? Do your best. Take 2 more breaths, everyone. It's not a contest. Finding opening and strength at the same time, not always easy. Release the foot if you've got it. Release the hand, come down to tabletop. And just give those hips a little sway from side to side. Now we're just gonna one time come onto our forearms and strengthen our shoulders a little bit. You're gonna bring your palms to touch, either palms touching, forearms on the ground, or palms down on the earth, and elbows are about shoulder width. Now we're only gonna take about 10 breaths here. So you're gonna find either downward facing dog, or if you need to modify because of an injury, bring your knees down and just lift one leg at a time. So either knees down with one leg lifted or downward facing dog. After about 5 breaths, we're about halfway there. So after 5 breaths, if your knees are down, I want you to switch which leg is lifted. Keep your head lifted off of the earth. We want to find that balance, right, between pressing, finding stability, and relaxing. Just a few more breaths. Find child's pose. Knees can either be touching or wide. Arms can relax forward, palms face up, or arms can be by your sides. Let your body relax, maybe open mouth breath. 5 more breaths. And no rush. When you're ready, go slow. Bring your hands down and slowly press up. So I was talking about the blocks at the beginning of class. If you've got blocks, now would be the time to grab your blocks. We're going to do one more active thing before we start to bring it to the ground. So for that, we're going to actually move into a variation of half moon. And I find using your blocks is really helpful with this. So bring the blocks to the top of your mat. Make sure you've got enough space even forward of your blocks. I always do that. It's funny, like at home, I'm like, oh yes, different spaces, right? So you want a little bit space, maybe about a foot in front of your blocks to work with, and find your way back in downward facing dog with your hands about, 4 to 5 inches or so away from your blocks. So blocks are on the ground, hands are down. And let's inhale, lift the left leg. We're gonna start on the left this time to end. Bend the knee, open the hip, press down through your hands. Then exhale, draw that knee to your chest and step the foot forward. Pivot the outer edge of the back foot down and come into warrior 2. So to find this shape, I always like to work in warrior 2 as the setup because it's exactly where we want our legs to be in terms of that extension outward. So bring your left forearm on your left thigh, right hand at the right hip, just to get grounded. And you want to make sure when you gaze down that your blocks are close by, so you can easily grab a block without moving too far. Now you're going to bring your block as closest to your left hand in, so your block is under your shoulder. And now we're gonna slowly take our back foot, lift the heel off the ground, pivot the heel up a little bit and bring the foot forward a couple of inches. Feels awkward, okay? Then bring your block forward of your foot about 6 inches and lift the left leg, lift the right leg up. Left leg is the grounded leg. So half moon shape. We might be familiar with this, right? We do this a lot in yoga practice. Then reach the right arm up. You can always bring your hand back to your hip as needed. Now we're going to take that right arm across the ear. Whew. It's like a side angle version of half moon. Reach through your back heel. Then bring your right hand back to your hip. Stay in half moon, best you can. You're going to bend your back knee, your right knee. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. Do your best. You're going to drop your top hip so your right knee points down. Bring your right hand to the top, as I fall, maybe to the top of the foot. And then slowly, maybe open back up into half moon here. If you're like, you can stay in half moon, right? Hand at the hip or arm across. We'll take a few breaths. Don't be afraid to fall. I do it all the time. It's actually a good sign. I'd try to open that top leg just a little bit more. Yeah, good, Hannah. Straighten the back leg first and then bend the knee. Maybe if you're trying to drop that right hip, remember, get hand maybe to foot. If you got hand to foot, reopen. If not, you just stay in a half moon for 2 more breaths. Maybe extra credit the gaze lifts. I always fall when I do that though, so do your best, right? It's hard. Now let's go ahead, and if your hand is to the foot, we come out just like we came in. You drop the hip and you slowly bring hand to hip. Now to come out, we re-extend that leg if the knee is bent. Bend your left knee, bring your left hand to your block. Bring your block and hand back to the outer edge of your foot and step the foot back. Some of you may or may not have made it there, right? Warrior 2. Let's cartwheel the hands down. You can even use your blocks if you like as help under your hands, and then find downward facing dog. Just readjust the blocks like they were before, about 4 to 5 inches in front of your hands. Make sure, again, you've got space in front of your blocks. Side 2. Let's lift now the left leg off of the ground, bend the knee, open the hip. Nope, I said that. Same thing. So let's lift the right leg. See, this is what happens when I switch sides. I get all confused. Lift the right leg off of the ground, bend the knee, open the hip. Yoga dyslexia. Exhale, draw the knee to the chest and step the foot forward. Pivot the outer edge of the back foot down and rise up, warrior 2 pose. Good, everyone. Second side. Now from here, again, we've got nice long stance, taking up a ton of room. Bring your right forearm on your right thigh, left hand at the left hip. We're gonna take the block closest to the right hand and bring it under the shoulder, just to get that good alignment. Now, right away, we're gonna go ahead and, with the hand at the hip for stability, lift the back heel a little bit. Now, at the same time, you're gonna bring your block and hand forward as you kind of bring your foot forward. That helps. Now bring your block forward a good full 6 inches in front of the front foot. Lift the left leg. If your low back bothers you here, you've got to get that core a little bit stronger, everyone. So you've got to get that core really active. Left leg, thigh parallel to the ceiling, and then reach the left arm up to the sky. Woo, as I fall. Take a few more breaths. Press down through your front big toes. Remember, the options to continue are to bring your hand to the hip first and then reach your arm across the ear. Full extension through your left foot. So side angle pose, you can stay here. If you want to continue on, bring your hand back to your hip, bend the back knee, drop the left hip, and maybe bring your hand to the top of your foot. If you've got that, you slowly begin to reopen your hip and shoulder. You can keep your gaze down or maybe lift your gaze up. Take a few breaths. Good work, everyone. If you've got your hands to your foot, remember to come out. You come the same way you came in. You drop the hip a little bit, then we re-extend. Then we all bring our hands to our hips. Bend your front knee, bring your right hand and block back, and step back, warrior 2. Whew. Hello, legs. Straighten the legs. And let's this time bring our toes to point in the same direction and just heel toe our feet back together. Give your legs and arms a little shake, well deserved. Let's come onto our backs. So make sure you've got enough space, you've got your props handy. Come all the way down to the ground, all the way down. And just take a few breaths with your knees bent, your hands on your thighs. And we'll draw the right knee in. Hands interlaced around that shin. And extend your left leg long. Just a few breaths here. Then extend that right leg straight up and interlace your hands at your mid-thigh. So reach that active right leg into your interlaced hands. Keep your left toes pointing straight up to the sky. Take a few breaths here. Jaw is relaxed. Let everyone rebend the right knee. Now you're going to bring your left foot on the ground, left knee is bent, and take your right ankle on top of your left thigh. Figure four stretch. Bring your right hand to your inner right thigh, so pressing the inner thigh a little bit away from you. Then lift that leg up, the left leg, and bring your hands back behind the leg, shin. Get what you can. If you can't quite get your hands to interlace, you can also just grab either side of the left leg. Close your eyes, take a few breaths. And slowly go ahead and release your hands. Bring your left foot down, but keep your right ankle on top of the thigh. From here, we're going to let our legs drop to the left. So you remember the sort of sole of the right foot comes down. I think you've all done this with me before. So your right knee is pointing straight up, your left knee is bent. Take your left hand to your inner right thigh, press, and then reach your right arm to the side and just gaze to the right. So a little release for our psoas, our low back. And slowly go ahead, release your hands and come back to center. We'll bring both feet down, pause, couple of breaths. Let the low back relax. Then draw your left knee in. Hands interlace around the shin the opposite way and extend your right leg long. So the right leg does kind of actively draw down a little bit. Then extend the left leg up. Hands again interlace. Foot is flexed. So find the balance between, active in the left leg, but relaxed in the shoulders, relaxed in the jaw. Maybe, right, if you can straighten your leg, it's almost like the ball of the left foot. It's like it could balance like a little cup. Right at that arch and ball area of your foot. Then bend the left knee again and bring your right foot on the ground. Right knee is bent. Left ankle on top of the right thigh. Left hand at your inner left thigh. Press just a little bit. And then draw your right leg up. Interlace those hands again in that awkward, sort of non-habitual way. Just soften or close your eyes. Listen to what's going on this side. Try to relax a little bit. Gently release your leg down. Now we'll keep that same shape and let our left foot go to the right. Right hand to your inner left thigh. Press and extend the left arm to the left. Gaze a little bit to the left. And slowly come back to center. Both knees in, knees wide, hands at your shins, and just rock a little from side to side. A little bit in one direction, circles, and then the other direction. Back to center, draw your legs to touch, and roll to one shoulder, and slowly press on up. So from here, we're going to set up for final rest, our final position. And I'm going to show it a couple of ways, okay? So if you have those blocks or something that you can use as blocks, what I want you to do is bring them down. So that way they're kind of, if you can see mine, they almost remind me of like Legos or something. They're down the like long way and then they're just touching. And you're going to bring whatever is your biggest cushion, whether it's a pillow or a blanket rolled up like a burrito, on top of those. I have a bolster at home, so whatever is your biggest cushion, or even a couch pillow or something works. And if for whatever reason today you just don't have blocks right at home, you can also just use your biggest cushion. That works too. And then you're going to bring a pillow or blanket down for your head at one end of the mat, and then at the other end of the mat. Now this is, if you do have a blanket that you're able to roll from the lengthwise way like this, you can go ahead and bring that at the end. If you don't, just a pillow is totally sufficient, or a blanket. Now, what we're going to do is find our knees supported by that higher sort of prop. And then you're going to bring this roll or pillow or blanket to support your ankles. And then you're going to come down with your head supported and arms relaxed. So the ankle support might be mild. And if you're a little bit shorter, right, maybe you need a little bit more under your ankles. If you've got something else, you can kind of, even magazines or books, you can bring under. Could be nice. And just make sure your body feels completely supported and relaxed as we settle on in here. And remembering in the yoga practice that this pose is actually, the last couple of poses are the most important from everything that we've done. So we just let the practice begin to settle on in. If you want to cover yourself, cover yourself. If you've got an eye pillow, bring that in too. And I'm going to end our practice in terms of me sort of being vocally audible in your ears with one quote. So this is from the author Octavia Rahim. She's the author of a new book called Gather. She's a Black woman in America. She says, "We must breathe. We must breathe for ourselves, deeply, fully, quietly, loudly. Breathe down into our roots. Breathe down into the belly of our hearts. Breathe to fuel our rising. On behalf of those who can no longer breathe, we must breathe. We must breathe. We must breathe because we can." So today we're actually going to go silent for the last 8 minutes and 46 seconds of class. So we breathe for those who cannot breathe anymore. And just begin to let your breath come in. And just feeling the gratitude for this breath and this life and everything that has seen you in your life, everyone and everything that has supported you. May we extend that same support to each other, those in our community who are marginalized, suppressed in any way. May we live our lives fully for ourselves and for them, and for those who cannot live anymore. So when you're ready, just very gently begin to move your body in whatever way you feel called to. Maybe, kind of moving of the arms and legs. If you want to do a stretch, you can do a stretch and reach. And then draw your knees into your chest as you exhale and roll to your left side today. Just remember that never-ending capacity that we have to shift and change and align more fully toward ourselves and for each other. And slowly press down through your hands and just find a seat. Let your eyes close. You can sit on a prop if you want, and the palms face up. We bring the pointer finger and thumb to just very gently touch, acknowledging your efforts, your very presence here for this practice, creating our own acts of resistance through slowing down, feeling more fully, and moving and breathing. May we remember to practice in a way that serves the highest and deepest good with harm to none. We're going to bring our hands to touch at the heart, bow the head down towards the chest, bringing our awareness in toward everyone. May we all know ease and joy, peace. May we be free of suffering and harm and pain. And may all beings everywhere know freedom and liberation itself. On your inhale, go ahead and gently lift your chin and slowly open your eyes. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being here. It's so good to be with you. And thanks, Daniel, for your guitar playing as always, and the kitties for